Welcome, everyone, to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is December 3rd. It's 2020. This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please let us know. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, and also a whole bunch of others that followed that, they impose strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, and then you have to put in the conference ID number, which is 701-120-848, and then hit the pound sign. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. I will now have a roll call of the board members to authorize this meeting. I will start with Paul.
This is Paul Semple. I say yes.
Happy? No happy yet. Okay. Buck?
James Upson, present.
Dennis?
Yes. Dennis Sullivan, present.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson, present.
Megan?
Megan Story, present.
And I am David S. Nixon. I have the honor to be the chairman. Okay. I want to remind everyone who's calling in today that you have to make yourself known to Sarah Clark. So you need to indicate on your screen that you wish to speak when the time comes. And when you do, please give us your name and the last 4 digits of your phone number for identification notices. The meeting today will be conducted as follows. The hearing notice will be read by Sarah Clark. She's the PPO, that's the principal permitting officer for the town of Chatham, as well as being the executive secretary for the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I might throw in that she is also that for the HBDC. Following that, you or your representative will present the application or appeal. Then I would ask for anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor to do so. I would then read any and all correspondence we had received. I would then ask for anybody in the audience who wishes to speak either against this or has a specific question to do so. Following that, then there might be some rebuttal. Then we would have the board members ask direct questions to anyone who had presented anything. And then when we're done with that, we would close the hearing and go into deliberations. Deliberations strictly is the board. You may not participate unless asked by a board member for a specific to join in the discussion. Voting in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has to be a super majority, and super majority for us means you need to get 4 of the 5 votes. 3 out of 5 is not a simple super majority. It's a simple majority. So voting today would be Paul Semple, Buck, myself, Megan, and Dave Thompson. Those would be the 5 voters. So I think we're ready, and we'll start with application 20-023, Morris Island Nominee Trust. I believe Mr. Riley wants to speak, but first, Sarah, please read the notice.
Application number 20-023, Morris Island Nominee Trust, care of William F. Riley, Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 47 Little Beach Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 16A, Block 27, Lot H44. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. Also proposed is the construction of a new driveway as allowed by special permit under Section 4A3D of the bylaw. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located 30.3 feet and 12.8 feet from Little Beach Road, negative 1.7 feet from the southwesterly abutter, and within the Coastal Conservancy District. The proposed dwelling will be non-conforming, and then it will be located 7 feet and 0.1 feet from Little Beach Road, where a 40-foot setback is required, 0.7 feet from this southwesterly abutter, where a 25-foot setback is required, and will remain within the Coastal Conservancy District, where a 50-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 695 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 1,152 square feet, where 2,800 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 0 square feet of buildable upland where 20,000 square feet is required, and contains 4,970 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D 2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw. This was continued from July 9th and October 8th, 2020.
Mr. Riley?
Mr. Chairman, Bill Riley, on behalf of the nominee trust that owns the property at 47 Little Beach Road. Having discussed the concerns of the building commissioner as outlined in his email to you with my client, we feel it would make, for an application greater opportunity for success if we withdrew today, and then when we refile, we'll have created a condominium where both 47 and 53 will be units in that condominium. And hopefully that will resolve the issues that the building commission is concerned about.
Okay, Mr. Riley, are you also withdrawing 53 for our next meeting?
We will be doing that, yes.
Okay, all right, very good. Do any members of the board have any questions of Mr. Riley? If so, please speak up. All right, hearing none, then I would ask Paul to make a motion. And Buck, if you would second it after you hear it.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to grant the request to withdraw.
This is Buck, and I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we will have a vote. Paul, how do you vote on that?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Upson votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Thompson votes yes.
Megan?
Story votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. So
Thank you,
let's
Mr.
go back to application 20-073.
Application number 20-073, Larry and Nancy Rowe, care of Eastwood Companies, 155 Kroll Road, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 17 Hydrangea Lane. Also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 13F, Block 29, Lot H17. The applicant proposes to construct an accessory use swimming pool in a GB3 zone, which requires the grant of a special permit. The proposed swimming pool will comply with all dimensional requirements of the bylaw. The lot contains 16,519 square feet in a GB3 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and Section 3C, 4C of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Okay, and representing Eastwood Companies, do we have Susan today or?
I am here. How are you?
Very good, welcome.
Good afternoon, Susan Ledoux, Eastwood Companies. I am here representing Larry and Nancy Rowe. And as Sarah just read in the legal ad, this is located in the GB3 zone. There's an existing single-family dwelling on this lot, and the Rowes are proposing to install an in-ground swimming pool, which is an accessory use allowed by special permit in the GB3 zone. The Rowes propose to install the 16 by 26 in-ground swimming pool at the rear of the existing home, extend the existing patio, and install retaining walls as shown on the attached site plan. There we go. Sarah's got that up for you. And we also submitted a landscape plan to go along with that, which shows a little bit more detail on the patio and the retaining walls, as well as the photographs that you'll see of the existing site. And the pool was staked for your viewing also. It will be installed behind the existing home, will be compliant at 35.8 feet from the west lot line, 15.4 feet from the north lot line, and 19.1 feet from the east lot line, where 15 feet is the required setback, The proposed pool equipment will be compliant, and it will be on the south side of the house and will meet the setback requirement there. Retaining walls will also be compliant. The proposed pool, additional patio area, and associated retaining walls will not increase the building coverage, and these items will increase the site coverage by just over 1,400 square feet. So the current site coverage is at 32.5%, and it will be increased to 41.2%, which is still well below the 60% maximum allowed in the GB3 zone. So I'm going to go through the criterion of the bylaw.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, the size of the site is adequate. We feel the size of the site is adequate for the proposed in-ground swimming pool. The lots adequately accommodates the proposed pool. The site is suitable for the proposed pool, and although it's located in the GB3 zone, it is a residentially used lot in a residential subdivision. As you know, you all have seen the subdivision before. There will be no impact on traffic flow and safety with the proposed use. There should be little to no impact on neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas with the proposed use. The pool will be tucked behind the existing home, which, as if you know Hydrangea Lane, this house sits back and is tucked back behind the home at 15 Hydrangea Lane, and really the house itself is tucked back there and hard to see from Kroll Road. The pool will be tucked behind the existing home and is buffered by existing mature vegetation on 3 sides with an existing stockade fence between it and Seaside Cemetery to the east. There will be no impact on the method of sewage disposal, source of water and drainage, no impact to utilities and other public services. Noise and litter will not be an issue with the proposed use. The proposed use will be compatible with surrounding land uses, and it is an accessory use to the existing single-family dwelling and will be adjacent to the home next door that also has an in-ground pool. There will be no impact on the natural environment, including slopes, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater, and water bodies by the proposed use. And this is not a formula business establishment, so that does not apply to this proposed use. And that is my presentation.
Very good, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this proposal? If so, please indicate on the screen so that Sarah can see you now.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Okay, then I will read the correspondence. First, we have a memo. This is from Judith Giorgio, Town of Chatham Health Agent. She writes on November 30th, I have reviewed the plan to add a swimming pool. The property is served by the municipal sewer system. Therefore, there are no concerns regarding septic system setbacks for the pool. I have no issues. Then we have a note. This is from the Town of Chatham HBDC, Historic Business District Commission. It is a certificate of appropriateness. On November 4th, they met and rendered the following decision. They voted 5 in favor, 0 in opposition, 0 abstaining to approve it. And the only condition is any changes or alterations to the above, the approved certificate of appropriateness require additional approval by the HBDC. And that's signed by Dan Silver, their chairman. Then we have a letter. This is from Matt and Julie, and I believe the name is Glauninger, 20 Hydrangea Lane. They write on November 18th, we've been owners of 20 hydrangeas since 2018. Writing to the board to offer our support for the special permit to install a pool at 17. As neighbor to the Rose House, we have reviewed the plans and feel that the proposed pool will be a welcome addition to the neighborhood. Thank you for the consideration of our letter. And then we have a note. This is from Tracy Passanelli. She's at 15 Hydrangea Lane. She writes on, it's actually an email on November 18th. I'm writing to ask the board to give its approval for Larry and Nancy's special permit request. As an immediate abutter to the site and probably the most affected by this request, I believe that the proposed pool is in keeping with the character of the existing homes and sites on Hydrangea Lane. It will not be a detriment to the neighborhood. I do not foresee any issues to my property either. Thank you for your consideration of my letter of support. And that is it. If there's anybody in the audience who wishes to speak against this proposal, has a specific question, please take the time now to indicate to Sarah on your screen that you would like to speak.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition.
Okay, then we'll go to questions from the board. Paul,
This is Paul Semple. I have no question.
Buck,
This is Buck. I have no questions.
Dennis,
Dennis Sullivan, I just have one question. Maybe Sarah can help. Was this the lot, when we gave the special permit, wasn't there some issue with the retaining walls in the back of this lot?
Yes, on the special permits when they came for the houses in that subdivision, there was a condition placed on the approval that any changes to the retaining walls would have to come back before the board. There were changes and they did come back and seek approval for those changes.
Okay. So there are no changes to the retaining walls with this project?
Not to the rear retaining wall, no. The one that backs up to the cemetery. They're adding
Right.
new retaining walls for the pool.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Dave Thompson, do you have any questions?
Dave Thompson, no questions, sir.
Megan, do you have any questions?
Megan has no questions.
And I have no questions. Paul, a motion, please?
Yep, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Buck? Would you
Uh,
second that, please?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Okay, so we will vote on this. Paul, you vote?
Yes, Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Megan?
Megan votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Let's start with Buck.
I can support it. I think the letters from the neighbors are what sealed the deal for me, so no problem.
Dennis?
Yeah, if I were voting, I would certainly vote in favor of it. It meets all our standards.
Dave Thompson?
I have no problems with this. It's a nice addition to the neighborhood. Quite sure that these folks are going to have a good time up there.
Megan?
I have no questions. I fully support it.
Paul?
Yes, it's Paul Semple. I agree. It satisfies all of our criteria. It's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. The pool is isolated behind the house, so I will vote in favor.
And likewise, I will too. So now we need a motion to vote. Are there any conditions anybody feels are necessary?
This is Paul Semple. I think the house is set back quite a ways and there's a fair amount of room in front of it. I don't think there'll be any difficulty in terms of construction. So I don't see any need for specific conditions.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with Paul? Okay, then Paul, a motion, please.
Yep, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Is Buck second?
Okay, so we are voting on this. Paul, how do you vote?
Paul votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Well,
Dave Thompson?
I vote
so
yes.
this is the first one, and that's David.
Megan?
And
Megan votes yes.
And I vote yes. So that's a unanimous decision. Thank you very much, Susan.
All right, thank you all. Have a good evening.
Okay. Application 20-074.
Application number 20-074, Peter and Mia Mann, care of David Little, P.O. Box 439, South Orleans, Mass. 02662. Owners of property located at 66 Happy Valley Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 6D, Block 28, Lot 16. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located 9.9 feet from the road and 6.9 feet from the southerly abutter. The proposed addition will be non-conforming and that it will be located 13.7 feet from the road, where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,097 square feet, 9.9%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,550 square feet, 14%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 11,090 square feet in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw. Mr. Chairman, I do just want to note that the applicant is here and he will explain this, but we received a revised site plan which shows an increase in coverage due to the fact that an existing covered porch was not originally calculated. It will not exceed the 15%, so I do believe that we can proceed with the hearing today.
Okay, so it's 14.5%, is that correct?
I can pull up the plan. I believe it's 14.
Yeah,
point-
yes.
Okay, all right. David Little, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Little, represent Michael and Mia Mann. The property is a developed site located in South Chatham in the R20 zoning district.
Okay, David, stop. There's a terrible feedback.
I have to call in on the phone, so if they could mute me and listen to me over the phone, Dave, I think it would work better.
Okay, because it won't work the way it is, so let's try the phone.
Okay, give that a try, David. I just muted you.
Does it sound better now?
Absolutely, 100% better.
Okay, I apologize for that, Mr. Nixon.
No problem.
So the applicants propose to renovate and add on to the pre-existing non-conforming 3-bedroom dwelling. As Sarah mentioned, it's non-conforming with respect to the road setback and the rear abutter setback. The proposed addition will be non-conforming with respect to the road setback and the abutter setback. And the expansion of the modest 1-story dwelling results in a total building coverage on the site of 1,605 square feet. The architect has designed a single-story master bedroom and bath. The new addition takes its design cues and scale from the existing dwelling. The new structure will remain unheated, open-framed, 1-story summer cottage and continue on the tradition of small proportion matching the roof pitches, the shed dormer bump out, the small double hung window awnings, all reminiscent of the existing structure. All new trims, overhangs, roofing, and siding materials will also take their cue from the original structure and match them as closely as possible. The interior shall retain the same open, uninsulated nature of the existing cottage and ceilings, and the rear elevation will have 2 small bump outs and skylights similar to size and scale of those shown on the original building footprint. Rich Morangel, the architect, made a significant effort to retain the original sense of scale of the cottage-like character as the Manns had hoped to do. As to the special permit criteria, the size of the site is adequate for the proposed addition. The resulting total building coverage of 1,605 square feet is 14.5% of the lot area and complies with the 15% requirement of the zoning bylaw. The rambling 1-story structure is compatible with the structures on the neighboring properties. While we are expanding the non-conforming dwelling, the proposed side and rear yard non-conformities to the proposed addition are smaller non-conformities than the existing are to the rear yard and road. We believe the site is suitable for the proposed expansion as there will be minimal impact to the neighboring properties. The 1-story expansion maintains the small scale and proportions and roof pitches of the existing structure. The residential use is compatible with the neighboring residential uses. The property is served by a Title V sewage disposal system and town water. All stormwater runoff is contained on the site and will be contained on the site in the future. There would be no additional impact on traffic flow or safety. There would be no noise or litter associated with the addition other than temporary noise impacts during construction, and a dumpster will remain on site throughout construction. As to the adequacy of utilities and other public services, they are not impacted by this project. And finally, as stated earlier, we believe the small scale and proportions of the house and the addition will maintain the existing visual impact that the house has on the neighborhood. So that being said, I attended a historical commission hearing on Tuesday. As a part of this building, the northerly L, the northerly 18 by 20 foot L of this building was actually constructed in the 30s. The remainder of the house was constructed in 2001, but because of that, it triggered review by the Historical Commission, and at their hearing, they determined that the structure had no historical significant, or it was not historically significant, so it did not require any action on their part. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, as Sarah mentioned, I did provide a revised site plan that shows that the coverage went up to 1605, and that is up on the screen. So we do comply. We have 14.5% coverage. And it is a very small house, small lot, and modest all the way around. So that would be my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this? If so, please indicate now on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Okay, I will now read the correspondence. First of all, we have from the Board of Health, Judith Giorgio writes on 11/30, I have reviewed the plan to renovate this property. I am unable to determine the number of bedrooms existing and proposed for this property based on the plan submitted. Our records indicate that in 2016, this house was considered a 2-bedroom dwelling. Any additional bedrooms that are proposed will require approval by the Board of Health and/or Health Division. A detailed floor plan is required of existing and proposed rooms. And then we have a note, as David Little indicated. This is from Michelle Clark. She writes on December 2nd, at their December 1st, 2020 public hearing, the Historical Commission reviewed an application for a partial demolition of the dwelling located at 66 Happy Valley Road. The commission found that the structure does not meet any of the criteria for a determination of historical significance as stated in Chapter 158-2, which is demolition delay, of the town's general bylaws, and therefore no demolition delay was imposed. That's the extent of the correspondence. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question or speak against this, please now indicate on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition.
Okay, then we'll have questions from the board. Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan, I have no questions.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson, no questions, sir.
Megan.
Megan Story has no questions.
Paul.
Paul Semple has no questions.
Buck.
Buck has no question.
And I have no questions. So a motion, please, Paul.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
This is Buck, and I second the motion.
Okay, we'll vote on that. Paul, how do you vote?
Paul Semple votes yes.
Buck.
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson votes yes.
Megan.
Megan Story votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, questions that, I'm sorry, deliberation. Dennis.
Well, if I were voting, I would certainly vote in favor of it. It's a nice little project.
Dave Thompson.
I would definitely vote in favor of it, which I'm going to do. It's a small addition. It's an upgrade. I'm in favor of it.
Megan.
I agree. I wholeheartedly support it.
Paul.
Yes, this is Paul Semple. I agree. It certainly meets our criteria. It is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. It's interesting going down that road to see the number of places that have stakes at one location or another before you get to the one that's involved. But I will vote in favor.
And I would agree with all of you. So
Mr.
Paul.
Chair, Mr. Chair, this is
Yeah.
Buck. I'll weigh in on it.
Okay.
Meets all of our criteria and do not feel that it's detrimental to the neighborhood. I will support it.
Okay, Buck, let me ask you, do you think we need to condition this in any way, shape, or form?
Absolutely not. They got lots of land there, and it's not a busy street.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with Buck? Okay, then Paul, a motion for a vote, please.
Yep, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
And this is Buck, and I'll second.
Okay, then we'll vote on that. Paul, how do you vote?
Paul Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Thompson, yes.
Megan?
Story votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Okay, so Sarah, application 20-075.
Application number 20-075, Karen M. Surratt Trust, care of David Little, P.O. Box 439, South Orleans, Mass. 02662, owner of property located at 10 Sea Cove Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 10L, Block 8A, Lot S3. The applicant seeks to modify special permit number 18-016 granted on March 12, 2018, which allowed for the demolition of the existing garage and construction of a new garage with deck and pergola. The applicant now seeks to modify the special permit to allow for the proposed deck and pergola to be located 23.7 feet from the road, where a 40-foot setback is required. The building coverage of 1,829 square feet, 9.1%, and all other setbacks approved under special permit number 18-016 will remain unchanged. The lot is non-conforming and that it contains 20,040 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in an R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D, 2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Okay, David, the floor is yours, and you can perhaps tell us what happened.
So thank you very much. David Little representing John and Karen Surratt and Stello Construction. So when we were asked to do the final as-built for the certificate of compliance, it was determined that the existing deck on the east side of the house was constructed 23.7 feet from the street line versus 24, which it was supposed to be. So the building inspector has advised Stello Construction that they needed to apply to modify the special permit. I provided the board with photographs. If it would be possible to bring up the photographs, Sarah, that would be great. Thank you very much. So if you'll notice in the lower left-hand photograph, the actual posts supporting the pergola are 4 inches or 3/10 back from the deck, and the actual post is 24.0 feet from the side from the street, but the deck itself is 3 inches closer, and hence the 23.7 foot setback. So it was during construction, I think the intent was to build it in compliance. We really don't know how this occurred, but I'm hoping that you can find that this minor discrepancy from the original plans is not more detrimental to the neighborhood than the original special permit was for the demolition and construction of the new garage. So I'm respectfully requesting that the board grant a modification of the original special permit.
Okay, so there's no correspondence on this. I'll ask if there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak either in favor of this or also perhaps against it. And to do so, just indicate to Sarah you wish to speak now, please.
I do not see anyone, but I do believe that we did get one piece of correspondence from the health agent.
Okay, let me find that pile. Yes, we do. And Judith Giorgio writes, I have reviewed the plan for the pergola and deck and have no concerns. That was on 11/30. That's it. Okay, and we asked for someone in favor. We also asked for anyone who wishes to speak against or have a question. And we saw no one who wished to do it. So I think we'll go directly to questions from the board. So Dave Thompson, do you have any questions?
I have no questions at all, Mr. Nixon.
Megan?
Megan has no questions.
Paul?
Paul has no questions.
Buck?
Buck, no questions.
Dennis?
Sullivan, no questions.
And I have no questions. So a motion, please, Paul?
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Buck seconds.
Okay, so that needs a vote. Paul, how do you vote on that?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Thompson, yes.
And Megan?
Story, yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Megan, how do you feel about this?
I think it was probably an honest mistake, and I really don't have any issue with it. I feel bad for them, and I think, it doesn't see any maliciousness.
Okay, Paul?
As Paul Semple, I agree. It seems to me this is de minimis. I have no problem with approval.
Okay, Buck?
I support it. I don't see there's any way that it's detrimental to the neighborhood.
Dennis?
Yeah, if I were voting, I would certainly vote in favor of it. De minimis.
Dave Thompson?
I don't see any problem at all. It's a very honest mistake.
Okay, and I agree with all of you. The conditions that are suggested, Sarah writes, we might want to reincorporate the following conditions we had on this initially. And number one, there shall be no cooking facilities in the finished space above the garage. And number two, the finished space above the garage shall not be a bedroom. Does anybody have any reason to change those? Okay, then, Paul, I would ask for a motion from you that would incorporate these two conditions.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted, subject to the two conditions that were previously mentioned.
Buck seconds.
Okay, then the vote. Paul, you vote?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Thompson votes yes.
Megan?
Story votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, David Little.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Sarah, we would now have application 20-076.
Application.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Dave Thompson, I live within 300 feet of that parcel of land. Should I recuse myself on that?
Well, that's entirely up to you. I don't think you can see it from where you live. I could be wrong.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Riley, on behalf of the applicants, we have no objection to Mr. Thompson sitting on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so back to Sarah reading the application.
Okay, application number 20-076, Douglas Whitla and Ann Humphrey, 419 Main Street, Medfield, Mass. 02052. Owners of property located at 63 Old Harbor Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 14E, Block 55, Lot 34. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming two-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the structure and the construction of a new guest house. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located 3.1 feet from the northerly abutter, 2.9 feet from the westerly abutter. The proposed guest house will be non-conforming and that it will be located 3.1 feet from the northerly abutter where a 5-foot setback is required and 5.1 feet from the westerly abutter where a 15-foot setback is required. The building coverage will remain 1,588 square feet, 12.7%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming and that it contains 12,552 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. The property is located in the GB3 and R20 zoning districts. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
So, Mr. Riley, is it correct you're representing the applicants?
Yes, I'm representing Doug Whitler and Ann Humphrey, who are also on the call.
Okay, great. Well, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. A couple of things before we get started on the project itself. The application is simply to change the pre-existing non-conforming structure. The ad refers to it as a guest house, and it is not a guest house. That's a specific definition in our bylaw. Both structures on this property predated the adoption of the guest house bylaw in Chatham. And so it's really just two single-family dwellings. Actually, it used to be a two-family dwelling on the same lot. And so we would not want any reference in the ZBA decision, presuming we're lucky enough to have permission here. It refers to it as a guest house. The other thing is that we have filed revised plans so that the building would be moved a little bit to the south, so that if you want to put there you go, site plan up. Thank you very much, Sarah. The proposed setback from the northerly abutter is now 5.1 feet instead of 3.1 feet, which coincidentally meets the setback requirement in that zone. And so the purpose here, as you can tell, is it's an antique that's been there, I don't know, a very long time. They've gone to historic, and historic has approved its the HBDC, pardon me, has approved its removal. So the intention is to pour a new slab foundation that's 5.1 feet from the northerly line, build the exact same footprint, but instead of what used to be two one-bedroom apartments, will now be a one-bedroom dwelling. That's what it is. So I'm going to ask Doug Whitler to describe to you sort of the design process he and his wife Ann went through to come up with this, what I think is a very handsome design. Doug, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee for your time today. My wife Annie and I bought this property in April in hopes of renovating this building. I applied for a permit to gut it because I was suspicious of the structure. And once we gutted it, excuse me, we realized that the foundation was almost non-existent. And it had been a single-story garage with a second story added on it. So at that point, we got permission to renovate it from the business district. We then went back and got permission to completely rebuild it to the same design, same roof pitch, same gables. Window openings are shifted slightly. Only one side has a change that has French doors. The new foundation, since we were rebuilding it, we decided to move it off the property line to give us a little more space to work on it and to maintain it. So there's 5 feet on the north side, and then the existing deck has a set of stairs from grade up to the deck, which we were going to eliminate and shrink the deck so it's actually the same square footage, but it's back 2 feet from the set from the property line. So our hope was to build the exact same building, same footprint, same size, and bring it in and make it more conforming on the property. And you can see Sarah has posted our design that was approved, and that's my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug. For those of you who don't know, Doug and presumably his brothers operate a construction company, Whitler Brothers, and they've been doing construction and renovations of antique homes in Chatham for quite a while now. And so I think it's great that he and his family will be bringing this property back to its former glory. In any event, so I'll be happy to run through the criteria now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that would be great.
So the question one, adequacy of the size of the site in terms of the size of the proposed use. So the lot's partly in GB3 and partly in R20. Total area is 12,522 square feet. The applicants want to remove the existing cottage and replace it with exactly the same dimension as the existing structure. They want to move the structure 2 feet further from the property line on the north side. So the rebuilt building will be 5 feet from the property line rather than 3 feet. Because there's no increase in the size of the cottage being rebuilt, the applicants believe that the size of the site is adequate for the proposed project. Compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties. Because it's a GB R20 neighborhood, and they have a very substantial building immediately to the north in the filling station restaurant. Across the street, they have the Masonic Lodge. On the other side of the filling station parking lot, they've got the Automobile Museum, which is pretty big. And so, and this structure, of course, is probably the smallest structure in the neighborhood. So, because there's no real change, we believe that to the extent the property is compatible today, it'll be compatible in the future. Extent of the proposed increase in the non-conforming nature of the structure or use. The applicant believes that there is no increase in the non-conforming nature of the structure. It's not being increased in size or living area. It's being moved further away from the sideline on the north side. And the deck on the rear of the cottage is being reduced in size so that it will be 5 feet from the property line, where the existing deck is only 2.9 feet. So we believe that we're actually reducing the non-conforming nature of the structure. Suitability of the site, including but not limited to impact on neighboring properties, on the natural environment, including slopes, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater, water bodies, and stormwater runoff. Well, we don't have any slopes, or vegetation, or wetlands, or groundwater, or water bodies. And we are always concerned with stormwater runoff. And toward that end, you can see Dave Clark's plan. After viewing the site and the grades that were going to be either maintained or changed, Dave Clark recommended a leaching catch basin, 6x6 with 4 feet of stone around it, which has very significant capacity to absorb rainwater. So we do not believe that there'll be any problem with stormwater runoff, and accordingly, we do believe that the site is suitable for the proposed project. Impact on scale, siting, and mass. A scale, siting, and mass on neighborhood visual character, including views, vistas, and streetscape. Although the building will be exactly the same size as the existing structure, as you can see from the proposed plans, it'll be a very handsome addition to the neighborhood. We think the effect on the neighborhood visual character will be very positive. Views and vistas are not an issue in this case. And although the building is about as far back from the street as you can get, the extent that it is visible from the street, we think it will be an improvement on the streetscape. The applicant believes that the changes are not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses. It's a mixed neighborhood because we are GB3 and R20. Since our proposed use is the same use as the existing structure, we don't think the compatibility of the neighboring uses is going to change. Method of sewage disposal, source of water and drainage. Properties connected to municipal sewer and the public water supply. we believe that the drainage design as shown on Dave Clark's plan is adequate for the property. Impact on traffic flow and safety. And with its previous iteration, the building was two one-bedroom apartments. As proposed by the applicant, it'll be a one-bedroom dwelling. Noise and litter, because the applicants will be living in the other house on the property. The applicants believe there will be very little noise and litter. And then adequacy of utilities and other public services. We think all public utilities and services are adequate. And that would be our presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Riley. Is there anyone out there that would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Well, Sarah, there was a Ryan Higgins who just appeared.
Well, there was a Ryan Higgins there, but I'm thinking that might be Mr. Whitla and Miss Humphrey, because I didn't see their names on here or their phone number.
Yeah, Ryan Higgins would be us.
Possibly.
I'm not sure why he appeared, but.
So there is no one else.
There's no one. Okay. So whoever Ryan Higgins is, hello and goodbye. All right. So, Sarah, the notice that now has several errors in it, is there any problem legally that, in fact, that we called it a guest house and that isn't going to be a guest house? I mean, the changing the feet from 3.1 to 5.1, I don't see a problem. But is there any problem in us approving it as a single-family dwelling as opposed to the fact that it was advertised as a guest house?
No, because a guest house is kind of a single-family dwelling. A guest house just allows for, frankly, more bedrooms if they wanted them. So no, there's no issue with that. And the fact that it had been 2 apartments and there had technically been 3 dwelling units on the property, they are still lessening that now down to 2 dwelling units.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe there's any issue with why the board could not proceed today.
Okay, very good. Okay, I will now read the correspondence. First of all, we have a memo. This is from Judith Giorgio, dated November 30th. I have reviewed the plans proposed for the rebuilding of the cottage at this property. The property is connected to the municipal sewer system. The plan will not add sewer flow to the property. I have no concern. From the Historic Business District Commission, we have a certificate of appropriateness. The commission on September 16th, 2020, voted 4 in favor, 0 in opposition, 0 abstaining, approved. This is signed by Darcy Seguin. And the condition is the usual one: any changes or alterations to the approved certificate require additional approval by the HBDC. I got 2 copies of that, but that's okay. 2 is better than none. So
David, there's 1 for the demolition and 1 for the new construction.
Oh, okay. And it says exactly the same thing. Both were on September 16th. Okay, right, demolition, no outcome. Thank you for that correction. Then we have a letter. This is from Howard Cahoon, attorney, and I believe you are in the audience. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you want me to read this letter, even though it seems that what you were requesting has already been changed? You had requesting in your letter 3.1 setback changed to a 5. Well, it's gone to 5.1. So can I ignore your letter, or do you want me to read it?
Well, I've just had an opportunity to speak with my client, and in fact, he still has some issues, and I guess I would ask that you read it into the record.
Okay, and are you also going to speak?
I would like to talk for a minute, yes.
Yeah, okay, very good. All right, I will do so. Okay, This was dated on November 30th. And Attorney Cahoon writes, please be advised, I represent Demetrius and, oh boy, you got to help me on the name here. The lady's name?
We call her Tula, but it's Spirodula.
Okay, and the last, okay, how do you pronounce the last name?
Deserpes.
All right, and they are the owners of 75 Old Harbor Road, and they operate the Old Harbor Cafe for many years. Their property is a direct abutter of 63 Old Harbor, and the newly proposed renovated structure will remain only 3.1 feet from the sideline between the two properties. With only 3.1 feet to work within, the petitioner will have to trespass on our property to work on and maintain the structure, which has been vacant for approximately 10 years. This trespass is a problem for my clients. There will be interference with the present business at 75 Old Harbor Road. This proposal will also further exacerbate a drainage problem onto my client's property due to the proposed additional parking and the proposed addition of a swimming pool, both of which result in the removal of grass and other natural vegetation from the petitioner's lot, causing more water runoff alongside and behind my client's building, which happens to be at a lower level than the petitioner's lot. For these reasons, my clients oppose this application for special permit as presently before you and ask that you require the renovated building to be moved from a 3.1 setback to 5 setback for the common lot line with the 75 Old Harbor Road property. There seems to be plenty of space to do this, and I note the building is only on a slab. This increased setback of less than 2 feet would allow the owners of 63 Old Harbor Road to build and maintain their structure without any need to enter on my client's property. My client would also ask that gutters, downspouts, and dry wells be required for the newly renovated structure. This would mitigate any water runoff onto my client's property. So that's the end of the correspondence. And so we now go on to those who wish to speak against or have a specific question to do so. So we'll start with Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Nixon, we do have one additional piece of correspondence that came in for this.
Oh, okay.
Give me 1 second just to pull it up. It says, my name is Stephen McCarthy from 57 Old Harbor Road. I think the project at 63 Old Harbor Road, after reviewing the plans, is going to be a great enhancement to the neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Okay, very good. So back to you, Mr. Cohen, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for reading my letter so eloquently. I couldn't have done it myself. I won't take too much of your time. You've had a busy afternoon so far. We still have the issue of the water runoff with the increase, as I said in my correspondence, of the parking with the swimming pool, with the couple of proposed patios. I think the natural vegetation will be gone, and we'll have more of a problem than we have now. Currently, because we are at a lower level than this lot, we do have issues with drainage and with frozen ground and frozen water and ice and so forth, especially behind the building located at 75 Old Harbor Road. So I would continue my client's opposition. However, we would note that we are pleased with the fact that he's going to and has revised his plans to move the building so that it's in compliance with present day zoning. There's one other issue that my client wanted me to bring up, and that is that there seems to be a conflict between the assessor's maps and this plan in terms of the size of the existing building, and it looks as if there's an extra 20 square feet in the proposal, but that's something that I'm sure can be ironed out. But anyway, for the reasons of the water runoff and what we consider overburdening of the property, my client does oppose this petition.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else there who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question? Please indicate to Sarah now.
There does not appear to be anyone else that wishes to speak.
So,
okay.
Excuse me.
Aside from Mr. Whitlaw.
So, well, Dave Clark is he is on the line and supposed to speak in favor of the engineering and the drainage.
Mr. Chairman, Dave Clark is here, and he's done the drainage calculations. Would ask Dave to address the board.
Very good. Okay.
Would suggest that Doug turn off his camera.
That's probably a real good idea. And Mr. Rowley, will you need to say anything in rebuttal after Dave Clark is done?
I don't think so. I mean, it seems to me the sole remaining issue for the neighbor is runoff, and
okay.
We're planning on doing a shell driveway, so there will be less lawn. That's true, but other than that, I think we've got the drainage pretty well controlled. But Dave can explain that to you.
Okay, great. So Dave Clark, you're on.
Yes, thank you. David Clark, Clark Engineering. From the beginning of this project, we understood that there was a runoff problem with this property. The driveway slopes away from Route 28, Old Harbor Road, into the property, and the low spot within the existing driveway is only 2 inches below the high spot between this property and the property to the north. So we knew we had to address it. So designed a infiltration pit, a leaching catch basin, to accommodate all the new impervious area as well as the entire existing driveway and the cottage. Half the roof structure of the existing house fronting on the street actually flows out towards the street, so that wasn't incorporated in the design. So the design of the drainage system not only takes care of all of the new impervious area, but it takes care of all the existing impervious area on the backside of the property. So the installation of this system will greatly improve the existing situation. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Okay, now we'll go to questions from the board. So we will start with Paul.
This is Paul Semple. I think the explanation with respect to the drainage certainly has answered that question for me. I'm pleased to see that the applicant was able to make a revision to the plan to make it conform on the sideline, so that we answered that question and conformed with the zoning. So I have no further questions.
Okay, Buck, do you have any questions?
I have one question for the engineer, David. Are you there, Mr. Clark?
Yes, I am.
So if when they go to install this leaching catch basin and they run into layers of clay, is that going to present a problem to the design of this catch basin, the functionality?
We will, if that occurs, we will excavate more till we get out of the clay. I've never found, I'll take that back. There's only one instance in town where we could never get out of the clay, and that was down on the south side of Oyster Pond. We did test hole, a lot of engineering study on the town property next door. Clark Engineering did the drainage design for that facility, and we found nothing but clean coarse sand on that property. I know impervious soils exist in the downtown area, but knowing what's going on next door, I'm confident we can find good material there. If I do find a restrictive layer when it goes in, it's just simply a matter of redesigning the leaching to fit within the good soils we find. If that answers your question.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Riley, I think Doug Whitler, who told me he was excavating for the swimming pool in the back of the property, could shed some light on Buck's question.
Okay.
Doug, are you there?
Yes, Doug speaking. We dug the pool, and the deep end, if you look at that plan, is at the end closest to the structure that we're talking about. And we went down 12 feet, and we did not hit water. It got a little soft and we brought in some stone. We did see a little layer of clay which had water on it, which then perked as soon as we finished digging for the pool. The water perked right away and it was fine. And that was, as I said, they dug down, I think almost, it's a deep end of 8.5 feet. So they were down 10 feet.
Okay, Buck, do you have any other questions?
I think that's good enough until the first good rainstorm. We'll see.
All right, questions, Dennis?
No, my only questions had to do with engineering and they've been dealt with. Thank you.
Okay, Dave Thompson.
Thank you, sir. The only question I had really was regarding stormwater, and that's been taken care of with a 6x6 catch basin. I'm so pleased to see that they're able to move the structure 2 feet to the south. I think it's great. I'm very pleased. Thank you.
Megan, any questions?
I have no questions. My questions regarding the drainage were answered, and I think that's great.
Okay, and I have no questions. So Paul, a motion, please?
Yes, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move it.
Buck seconds.
Okay, we need to vote on that. Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Thompson, yes.
Megan?
Story, yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Let's start with Dennis.
Well, if I were voting, I would certainly vote in favor of it. I think it meets all our standards and it's a nice project.
Dave Thompson?
I will vote yes. It's going to be a beautiful addition to that part of town. Just everything is positive with that. I'm very pleased, and I will definitely vote yes.
Megan?
I completely agree. I think it's a huge improvement to that little area, and I think it's going to be fantastic.
Paul?
Yes, Paul Semple, I agree. I think it satisfies all our criteria. It's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Buck?
And I second what Paul just said.
Okay, and I certainly agree. I think that the applicants have gone to great lengths to satisfy the neighbor by moving the building, doing all this drainage work. I would think that they would think that, boy, this is so much better than it could have been. All right, so before we have our final vote, let me ask Mr. Whitler when he plans to build this.
As soon as Mr. Briggs will give me a permit.
Okay, so will you be done by June 15th?
How about July 1st, Dave?
Well, I'm asking the questions. June 15th.
If that's what you need, I will be done by June 15th.
Okay. I don't want to make it draconian, but July 1st is a little late for me. I like June 15th. Okay.
Oh, how about how about June 25th?
How about June 1st?
Dave, come on, give him a little slack.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, man. All right. What's the first day of summer?
June 20th.
June 22nd.
June 22nd.
All right.
Are you talking interior construction or exterior construction?
Well, I'm talking exterior construction.
Okay.
Absolutely.
June 22nd would be great.
Okay. All right. So, and I presume you can keep all the construction vehicles on the property because you don't want it on the street in that location.
Yes, we can. Yep.
All right. Very good. Paul, we need a motion for a vote.
Yep, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted with the conditions that are standard with respect to this, with the exception that it would be June 22nd for the construction provision.
Okay.
Buck seconds.
Okay, we will take a vote. Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Megan?
Megan Story, yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you, Mr. Riley, Mr. Whitler, Mr. Clark, and Also Mr. Cahoon. All right, so next order of business today is the
Thank you
minute.
very much, Chairman.
Very good. Okay. Minute.
The minutes are of November 19th.
There was a little confusion as to the dates, but I think that got straightened out. Anybody, were there any corrections or anything? Anybody know?
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the minutes as indicated for November 19th.
Buck seconds.
Okay, so we'll take a vote on that. Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Megan?
Megan Story, yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. All right, now the last order of business is, as chairman, I get the privilege of appointing the nomination committee. The nomination committee, this would be for the officers for the year 2020, 2021, Megan. So that would be January 1st through the last day of December 2021. So I spoke to Mr. Veach, who was willing to be not only the chairman of the nomination committee, he's also the entire committee. So I'm just telling you that that's not something to vote on. The promise always is, he said, I'll do it, but I won't be an officer. Okay, so that's the deal. So he will make his recommendation to us on our meeting of December 17th, and then the regular members would vote on that. So with that, I will have a roll call so that we can end this meeting. And I'll go through everybody. Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dennis?
Sullivan votes yes.
Dave? Thompson?
Dave votes yes.
Megan?
Megan votes yes.
And I vote yes, and I'll note the time. Here in Stage Island, Sarah, it's 4:12.
It is 4:12 here in Eastham, and I did hear a motion by Paul Semple and a second by Buck to close the meeting, to adjourn the meeting, correct?
I think I heard that too.
This is Paul Semple. That is
I
correct.
heard it too.
And I seconded that, Sarah.
All right, I'm just making sure.
There you go. Okay.
Then we are, in that case, we are officially adjourned.
Yeah, thank you one and all. And Sarah, I'll call you at 9 o'clock tomorrow. All right.